Well, a productive weekend, obviously, for us. I was very anxious to see how our team would respond out there. And, obviously, they were coming off of a very big weekend. So I think they shut out twice St. Cloud on the road. And so I thought that might be an opportunity for us, which on Friday night we were able to get things to go our way. And the game got a little closer late in that third period with the major penalty that was called. And then the real question for us was how would we respond on Saturday to what we'd consider a pretty big pushback. Earlier in the season, we won a Friday night game. We didn't respond real well on Saturday. This was a similar challenge, and yet it was a little different because it was on the road. And so we were kind of curious to see how we'd be able to approach it, and I thought we approached it really well. I thought we played a better game on Saturday than we played on Friday. And I thought we had more good individual performances on Saturday than we had Friday. And even though we weren't able to win in regulation, we ended up winning the tiebreaker, I guess. Is that what you'd call it? Yeah. But anyway, it was good to be able to come out of there with a growing amount of confidence, knowing we played against a real good team, seeing some of the individual performances in particular continue to grow, and getting some results, which is important. So I thought it was a productive weekend in that regard. This week obviously presents a different kind of challenge, an exhibition game coming off of a big series that we just played on the road. So that will present a set of challenges for us just right out of the gate. That their team will come in here and play real hard. It's a young team, as it always is, but very talented and very skilled. So I think it'll be a good test for us to rebound from, or I shouldn't say rebound, I guess, just prepare coming off of a big weekend that we just had to now going into this last opportunity to play and get ready for what will 2 weeks from now be the Big Ten opener.
Tom, Michigan State is 6-6 against the U.S. 18 team. You're 2-2 in the 4 years or so.
Is there a tiebreaker for that?
Yeah, there is. There's a shootout, but it's 2-2.
Got it.
But anyhow, what makes this game so difficult, and what makes it for the U.S. team that plays so competitively?
Well, it's interesting you say that or ask that, because I asked the guys on our team who played on that team, and their response is those are really big games for them. Guys really try hard. Guys really prepare hard for their team to play in these college games, and that makes sense. From our end, depending upon where the game kind of falls during the course of your season, this particular year it's going to come off of a big series that we played on the road. So I think there's a tendency for letdowns in those kinds of situations. And I know, in just reading the media clips of North Dakota, that's how they felt they played, coming off of a big series that they played against St. Cloud the week before on the road. So for us, I look at it as an opportunity, not just the opponent, but the fact that it's an exhibition game. We will go into the game, maybe try a few things, maybe dress potentially some additional players. I don't know, before you ask, what I'm going to do in goal yet, but we'll kind of see that, and that's a consideration too, maybe to get left some playing time. So I'm trying to preempt you now. You have nothing. You got nothing the rest of the time. You can leave now. Yeah. So, they're a well-coached group. They're a very talented group. They'll come here like they play every college team, very hungry to play and to perform at a high level. So that in itself makes it difficult. And then those other dynamics that I just mentioned are things you have to overcome to be ready to play. And not, in our case, not look too far ahead to the opening of the Big Ten season, because some teams will be opening the Big Ten season this weekend, and we open it 2 weeks from now.
Coach, my question's kind of a two-parter. First off, You guys were able to beat North Dakota on the road in Grand Forks. First time a Michigan State team has done that since '79, I want to say. How big of a weekend was last weekend for your team and your program?
I think it was an important weekend of growth for our team in many different ways. I believe we're getting better each week. We're watching ourselves get better each week. And, we've only played, 11 games or whatever our number is. And there's teams who've already played, 14, 15, maybe even 16 games. So we've got a ways to go yet. But going into a building like that, that's tough to play, going against a team like that has a lot of depth, plays with a lot of skill, is the defending national champions. It's an opportunity to come out of there building a little bit of confidence, both individually for guys and collectively as a group. And so, I thought both nights presented some different challenges that we face that is going to help our growth. And like I said before, I think getting positive results is important because that really helps your confidence grow.
And after such a weekend like last weekend, are you happy, disappointed, or indifferent that you have essentially a bye week? You have an exhibition game and you're not starting conference play right now, this weekend.
I haven't really thought about that because that's just what it is. So we're just dealing with what we have. We're not banged up, so that's, we don't need that time. I think we're pretty fresh overall. We did a yoga session yesterday, and we have a day off today, so I think guys' minds will be fresh, and then we'll get back at it tomorrow. So I kind of like that we're playing on Sunday, and we can gear up towards next week. So I guess if I think about it, I'm babbling here and just kind of thinking out loud, is it probably falls in a pretty decent time because we'll use this game, which we know is a hard game to play, as an opportunity to get ready for our Big Ten opener a week from now.
Tom, is any part of you as a message to your team trying not to overreact to a really good weekend so they don't think that they've arrived by one good weekend?
Yeah, that was our message yesterday. It was progress, continued progress. But if that's our level of satisfaction, that's not acceptable. That's not very good. So it's nice to see the progress. It's nice to see the team grow. It's nice to see individual performances get better. It's nice to see that as we're gaining experience, we're getting better and better performances deeper into our lineup. So there's a lot of good that comes from it. But to me, it's still just part of a process of becoming a good team and a hard team to play against. And so, it's over. It's good weekend, but we got to have a lot of good weekends. So now we got to look ahead.
Tom, you talked a lot about wanting offensive production last week, and I see 6 goals as the most you've had in a weekend series, but shots on goal don't seem particularly high and doesn't seem spiked by power play. What brought on the offensive goal scoring? I guess, what did you see? Was there a difference this weekend in how you were able to put in the net?
I think we're gaining experience, and I talked about this before. That there's certain teams that you play that the pace of the game becomes faster and faster and faster, and so everybody can skate up and down the ice relatively similar, but executing at a higher pace becomes more challenging. So making key plays at key times at a high pace or under pressure, the better you get at that, the better your team will become. And I think that we're growing in that regard. I think there is more confidence. So no, it wasn't a ton of scoring chances, but I thought the primary scoring chances really were fairly similar between the two teams over the course of the 2 games, and you take out special teams. But I think our team's confidence is just growing, and so you could say we were opportunistic at times, but I think most of our goals came off of real good plays, and we took advantage of our scoring chances. I thought there were other opportunities we didn't convert that hopefully we will in the future. But I think offensively, as we gain experience, because again, we're playing a mixture of guys, many of which are in their freshman or sophomore years, and I think as they gain confidence offensively, we're going to evolve even more. And getting some offense from our blue line, and not just in Jared's case, who had 3 goals on the weekend. Do you count 3 goals, or it's probably 2 goals plus? I'm just stirring it up. I'm trying to feed him back there. Look at him shaking his head. But my point is, it's nice to get that contribution from the blue line, and those resulted in goals. But we're getting offense created from our blue line by others too. Carson Gatt set a couple guys in on breakaways. We didn't convert, but there are opportunities that were created. We're getting more pucks to the net. So a lot of good stuff is happening, and I think that will continue to grow.
Coach, talking about individual performances, and Rosberg is, I guess, 3 goals here. How do you think he's going to come back from injury, especially after kind of being out all of last year and kind of being banged up earlier this year?
I think he's coming back quite well. I think, like many of the guys, continuing to push your level to the highest potential you have, and then find a consistency in your performance is going to be the biggest challenge he faces now. Because again, he hasn't played a lot of hockey over the last 2 years. So we were hopeful he was going to play last year when he came in. It didn't work. This year, I think he's gotten off to a good start, and he's getting better each week, but he's still playing a lot of catch-up. And so that's an awful lot of good experience for him this past weekend, and each weekend it is. And then, our goal is to not just get him to perform at a high level to his potential, but to do it on a consistent basis. And those are 2 different things.
Coach, and I got to sneak a goalie question in there.
No, it was coming. You cut the mic.
But about Ed Minnie, how did you think, listening to the radio broadcast, talking to the other guys, he looked kind of relaxed out there, poised. How do you think, as an upperclassman now, as kind of a first-year starter, he's kind of grown into his role kind of in that net?
I would say you described it very accurately. I thought he was very consistent in his play. I thought he showed a lot of poise all weekend. The 2 goals that they scored on Saturday, he didn't see either one. We screened him on both those goals. And I thought he shut plays down, killed pucks, didn't allow rebounds in key situations, which is an important characteristic of a goalie on his game. And at the same time, they outshot us. I did think a fair number of the shots were perimeter-type shots that he managed, really well. But when they had real quality scoring chances, a couple breakaway opportunities amongst the 2 games, a couple real good point-blank shots, he came up big at the right time, and you need that. And then the other thing you need is your goalie to be maybe your best penalty killer. And I thought he was pretty consistent overall in that regard too.
Coach, you mentioned a little bit about your underclassmen getting production, which you have been getting a lot of production from your underclassmen. Mason Appleton, a sophomore, is your leading scorer. Taro Hirose is tied for second with 7 points. How satisfying is it for you to see all of these young guys step up and contribute so early in their collegiate careers?
Well, that's what we expected, and frankly, that's what we need, because a lot of them are playing roles that are providing a lot of minutes to them. So we need them to step up. But I think, we talked about it before our season started. We thought we had a group here that was going to come together well, and I think that's happening. We have a lot of young skill and talent on our team. And when I say young, it's a combination of youth in age and youth in experience. So, I think guys like, you look at a Quartarenko who's very young, Taro's a young freshman, Mitch Elliott's a very young true freshman, and then you have guys like Sammy Saliba and Logan Lambden who are older freshmen and experienced at this level, but their game is really on the rise. You could see their confidence growing, their experience is gaining each week, they're making a greater impact. So we're starting to see those pieces come together, which we were hopeful for. And when you go into a season, you never know the dynamics. You never know how each individual piece is going to work. But a lot of good stuff. A kid like Buttress Ghaffari. Like we didn't know what the expectations if he'd play a minute this season. You know, he was a late add to our team, and he's provided some level of consistency. And the good news is there's even a couple guys on defense who we really like how they're playing, and they haven't been able to work their way quite into the lineup yet. And, that's kind of the next step for them to get some game experience, but I think they've been practicing really well. So we're pleased to date, but, that's day to day. Every day is a new day, and you got to get better, and we've got a long way to go, but we are building each day and each week, and we're seeing that growth. And now we've got to get to a level where we're comfortable knowing that we have a level of consistency in our game. I thought we played well, but there's a lot of room for improvement based on how we played over the weekend.
Tom, Tommy Miller is a member of the U.S. team on defense. You signed him a couple weeks ago to a letter of intent for next year. What kind of player is he, and what do you expect of him to see this weekend?
He's a very consistent two-way player, I guess I'm going to call it. He's not the kind of player that's just going to kind of jump out at you. You have to kind of watch him, but from a coach's perspective, you love him because you know what you get. He plays with a lot of intelligence on the ice. He's a very good puck mover. He defends really well. Very smart positionally. He's got good size. I think he's right now probably 6'2", and he's just kind of maturing physically. Like I think he's going to have a real high upside. And he contributes, like he's not a big point producer at this time, but he contributes on both ends. He can move the puck out of the zone offensively. He can join the rush. He's smart about when to do it. He provides good support. He can get pucks through from the blue line, which is so critical today. And he's got good leadership qualities. So he's got both. He's a smart student, but he's also a smart hockey player, and those aren't always congruent, and so he'll be a very good player here. We're anxious to get him here.
When you have a player you're playing against that's going to be in your program, do you have a wandering eye? Do you keep an eye on, or are you too involved in the game to do that? Is that more for the game film?
Yeah, I'll watch that on game film. I won't probably really focus on him unless he just stands out so much that you can't help but watch him. But I haven't typically.
Okay, Mr. Diplomacy.
Here we
You're
go.
on rules committees, correct?
Yeah, I'm actually the chairman of the rules
That's
committee.
what I thought.
I'm the former chairman of the rules committee.
So I know you said on the radio show last night it's a complicated, but I can simplify it. Why can't college hockey just all play by the same rules, and games that aren't ended in regulation are all decided the same way? Why is that so tough to figure out?
Well, here's the real answer to it, is the sport is very divided on the issue. And it's divided not so much by the coaching fraternity. The coaching fraternity in our sport, I would argue, is probably as influential as there is in any college sport. Its opinion has a great impact on the decision-making process of the rules committee. And that body overwhelmingly just is comfortable keeping the game the same. There are other groups, whether they're administrators or pieces of the coaching fraternity at different levels, because our committee doesn't just serve Division I men's, it serves Division I women's and Division III men's and women's. So that complicates things a bit too. And last year there was a proposal that came out of the rules committee to try to do exactly that, create a system that would be used by everybody. And it was a system that would go to 4-on-4 after 5 minutes of 5-on-5 play. And it passed in the rules committee and moved forward. And in the review process, there was a significant outcry that went back to the NCAA, and our committee changed its view based on all of that input. So, yeah, predominantly, but it wasn't just coaches. There were administrators from some leagues more than others, but predominantly, very strong voice amongst the coaching fraternity. And that group, our group has a large influence over the process.
Coaches would rather have ties than risk losses.
Yeah, that would be probably a fair assessment. But one of the main concerns, and I think there's valid concern behind some of it for sure, is that we play a certain number of games. It's not like junior hockey where you're playing 60 or 70 games, and when you go into championship play, you don't change your rules. This is how you play to the finish. So if you're in your conference tournaments, if you're in the NCAA tournament, we play 5-on-5. That's hockey. This is the argument that's made pretty strongly, and some people are very opposed to the shootout concept because they feel it's very gimmicky, which I get that too. This was our first experience with the 5-on-5, then 3-on-3, so I'll have a different perspective having actually participated, not just watching it. And obviously, it was nice to be on the winning side of it. But I like to think I'm pretty objective over it. And what I see out of that, because that's being tried by some leagues in an experimental way, what's kind of, it is the game. That's how the game is played. While we don't have a lot of 3-on-3 play, there is potential for 3-on-3 play. So there is strategy behind it, and so on. So there's a lot of different arguments that are made. This has been a topic for years. This isn't something new. It's for years and years and years. Yeah. Yeah, that's you're talking 10, 12 years ago. I personally, I would eliminate ties. And again, I think that's very simplistic. I would prefer to see if we could work with the championships committee to see how you could modify the RPI in such a way that, in my view, if you could play 60 minutes of 5-on-5, I don't even know why we play the extra 5 minutes of 5-on-5. Just go right into, or 3-on-3 or whatever. And I do like the idea of 3-on-3 or 4-on-4 much better than the shootout, because either way, if you lose, you feel like you lose, and if you win, like playing the 3-on-3, it felt more like a win than if you're in a shootout, for sure. But it is, and I will tell you, when I'm on the committee, I do feel I'm representing the interests of the Division I men's coaches in particular, because I sit in that seat. And I represent those interests when I'm on the committee, and you're trying to find that balance of the body that you're representing and also trying to come up with concepts that you think are good for the game. So I hear you. I hear lots of fans say that, and believe me, we spend a lot of time talking about it.